Boom shakalaka, what is going on, everybody? Randall here from Crypto Love, and you might have noticed I did not have an episode yesterday. That's because it was a public holiday here in Thailand. Turns out they take more days off work than the French. Who knew? But today's episode, we have quite an episode. Okay, today we are going to be talking about the crash in Bitcoin's price, where it could be going, and what most likely did cause it. We will also be talking about a new Satoshi found. We will also be talking about Tron's insane news, their announcement that they had, and some other stuff right after a message from our sponsor. Alright guys, before we get into things, I just wanted to say thank you very much to all the new subscribers. Thank you to everybody double nuking the shit out of the like button. Even people commenting back there. I comment right back at you. And let's get into it. Well, today, total market cap $252 billion. Bitcoin dominance 55.7%, dropping a wee little bit. Bitcoin breaking below 8,000 at 79.31. Ethereum at 246 and XRP at 41 cents. Pretty heavy losses for the top 10, between -5 and -10%. The big gainers for today, Aurora, Zilliqa, and Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. The big losers, KuCoin shares, BitTorrent, and Tezos. Now, when we take a look at the charts, Bitcoin's been heading up for a while, and then broke 9,000 for a second, and ever since then has been kind of falling. Over the past day or two, we have seen some pretty big losses losing almost $1,000. Pretty much $1,000 drop. Now, did we see this coming? Maybe. We talked about it on Friday, so a few days ago we talked about it. Up until then, we had been seeing support, this purple 21-day moving average, but no longer. We've broken through to the bottom of that 21-day moving average, as you can see here. Found a bit of support on the 78.6 Fibonacci line from the very bottom, that 3150, all the way up to the top, finding support right there. So where potentially could we be going from here? Well, a few places. One, maybe we'll hover right there on that retracement line, or on that Fibonacci line. If we don't, potentially could go down to where we find some support with this VPVR little thing at 7,300, maybe 7,000, or all the way down to the 61.8 at 68.23. So there are some potential places where we might find some future support. I mean, if we don't see a bounce back, because one of the potential reasons for this is a little bit of manipulation. Who would have thought somebody's manipulating the crypto markets? That would be a first. I can't believe it. I'm crying because it's so shocking. But, guys, we knew this would happen. Anybody who's been trading using the MACD, they've been doing pretty well because guess what? Back when Bitcoin was somewhere in this $8,000 to $9,000 range, somewhere would have gotten out, and now you'd be in stablecoin and wouldn't be that concerned with the losses. So definitely check out MACD trading. I've made videos about it. You could just type it in to Google or YouTube and find it out there. Now, one of the reasons for the loss could be what Magic Poop Cannon was talking about the other day. We went over this in detail on Friday, so I'm not going to do that. He just pointed out a few things. One being the NVT signal, which is this one. Also the money flow indicator, which is this one. Both of these predicting potentially 85% drop in value. So could see Bitcoin going all the way down to the 1,100 to 1,200 range, which will fulfill the hyperwave theory, or maybe just to the lows of $2,000 or $3,000. Also, he talked about percentages. So if you want to see more of that stuff, check out Friday's video. He did say that while it is possible Bitcoin could go down to the lows, may also go up to $9,500. So, I mean, could be kind of good there. But the real potential reason for what happened with the price drop over the past day or two, pure whale manipulation, okay? It was completely manufactured. Here's what happened. About 30 minutes before the dump, the whale moved 25,000 Bitcoin to Coinbase. You can see that here. Boom. 25,000 Bitcoin moved from a wallet to Coinbase. Then, about an hour after the dump, the whale moved $14,000 from Coinbase to another wallet, and then 40 minutes after that, another 11,000 to a different wallet. So he moved that 25,000 to Bitcoin, or 25,000 Bitcoin to Coinbase. Then afterwards, he moved it away, 14,000 to one wallet, 11,000 Bitcoin to another wallet. And you can see here's the 14,000 Bitcoin. Here's the 11,000 Bitcoin. And then 15 minutes after that, a whale moved 10 million Tether from one wallet to another. You can see here, 10 million tether from one wallet to another. So if you can do the math in your head, here's what happened. Somebody dumped 25,000 Bitcoin for $215 million and bought it back shortly after for $200 million. In doing so, they pocketed $15 million and walked away with the same amount of Bitcoin they started with. Fuckers. That's what whales do. So kind of frustrating. Somebody just wanted to make $15 million, and that's how you do it when you have 25,000 Bitcoin. It's pretty simple. Now, here's the thing. People complain about manipulation going on against their position in the market, but that's how all markets work. Market makers, i.e. institutional investors and others, move the markets in their favor because they have the ability to do so. With Bitcoin, it's just a bit easier than some other trillion-dollar assets because of the relative lack of liquidity and the fact nobody has to worry about an SEC investigation. Stop hunts, liquidity hunts, fake supporters, resistance paint charts. Either way, figure out how it's successfully done or don't trade the market at all. And it's the same thing. When it goes up $1,000 in a day, no one complains. When it drops 600 in a few minutes, people get all up in arms about whales. So that's what's going on. Now, this interesting article was shared with me by Wendy O. If you don't know her, she is an awesome Twitterer and other content creator. So make sure to check her out on Twitter, cryptowendyo.com. But here's the news. New evidence suggests Satoshi Nakamoto is Paul Solochi, creator of encryption software E4M and TrueCrypt. It's very plausible. It's plausible. I mean, if we were on Mythbusters, I don't think they'd say busted. I don't think they'd say confirmed. They'd say plausible. So it is an in-depth article. I'll just link to it down in the description for you guys who want to read it, but I'll go through somewhat briefly. So this guy, Paul Solochi Calder LaRue, he's a 46-year-old criminal mastermind. He's the creator of encryption software E4M and TrueCrypt, which is, TrueCrypt should be noted, this is the cryptography encryption software Satoshi Nakamoto likely used to lock up his $1 million in Bitcoin. And he's the author of an uncannily similar manifesto to the one used in Bitcoin's white paper. But that's not all. Aside from Solochi being similar spelling to that of Satoshi, he's interested in gambling, and Bitcoin's initial code had poker client included. And what's more, he's been in jail since 2012. That's probably the reason why 1 million Bitcoin hasn't moved. Interesting, right? Plus, he's also got connections with Craig Wright. That's right. So this guy, this 46-year-old cartel boss, drug smuggler, arms dealer, U.S. informant, he's in U.S. custody for ordering the assassination of 6 people. But before that, he was a brilliant programmer and ambitious cartel boss. And somehow he's tied to Craig Wright. Gosh, does Craig Wright know all the evil people? And is it surprising that like a drug boss could potentially be Satoshi? Not at all, because if you take a look at all of the Bitcoin whales out there, they're all former drug dealers. That's how they did it, because they needed Bitcoin to buy drugs. They did that, and then they had a wallet that they forgot about for a long time, and then all of a sudden they're a whale. Well, anyways, so in this Kleinman versus Wright lawsuit that you've probably all heard about, there's this document 187, which is Dr. Wright's motion for protective order. Now, this is some sensitive information that includes his ties to criminals and other involvement. Well, most of it has been like blacked out, so you can't see any of it. But there is something right here which points to Paul LaRue's Wikipedia page. So go figure. Craig Wright somehow has, maybe he ratted on him, maybe he did something else, but he has some connections to this guy. So potentially that could be Satoshi. And then if we take a look here, here's his email where he talks about how he has files of Dave's that he cannot access now. They're TrueCrypt partitions. And if you remember, Paul Solochi LaRue created TrueCrypt, and he has no passwords, but he thinks potentially in 5 to 10 years, it could take them to hack those passwords. So it's speculated that he's trying to crack those passwords now, and then once he does, then he'll confirm that he's Satoshi. So here we go. Strong parallels between Satoshi and Paul Solochi LaRue. First is the name Solochi, kind of like Satoshi, kind of similar. Second, brilliant programmer, familiar with C++, so Satoshi. All right, great. Also, they're both into cryptography. Great. Also, Solochi developed TrueCrypt. Satoshi encrypted his 1 million Bitcoin in TrueCrypt. So, potentially, now a lot of people probably used TrueCrypt back in the day, but that's another thing. Also, Satoshi's disappearance lines up with Solochi's endeavors, so disappearing after a certain amount of time, and yada, yada, yada. So you guys can read the rest. Oh, here's a few more things. Both were wary of authority, both had interest in online gambling, both understood new digital payment systems were needed to improve upon the difficulties of traditional payments. LaRue was a multi-millionaire, if not a billionaire, since she wouldn't need to cash out his Bitcoin position. And here's another thing, in case you guys have ever watched that Unabomber thing on Netflix, I forget what it's called, but both use similar spellings and language, using words like this and spellings like this. Analyze, color, defense, bloody, hard. Okay, so they caught the Unabomber by looking at his words and potentially might catch Satoshi the same way. So you guys read this. You tell me what you think down in the description. Is this guy right here, is that Satoshi Nakamoto, or am I just, going wherever? You guys let me know. And I'll put the article down there. Duh. Now, Tron, with their big news, a few days ago, he said he was going to have a big announcement. Well, it turns out he does have a big announcement. Tron's Justin's son wins an eBay charity auction for $4.57 million to have lunch with Warren Buffett, and he gets to bring 7 of his friends. I hope he brings some people who know how to talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but that's pretty cool. So, Justin's son always wanted to be in the limelight about what's going on. We all know Warren Buffett doesn't really like Bitcoin. He's kind of said some okay things about blockchain, but he doesn't like Bitcoin. Well, maybe Justin's son having lunch with him will be able to change his mind. We should sure hope so. That's the big news there. Other stuff in the news, new Bitcoin improvement protocol could reduce transaction bandwidth by 75%. So basically, the idea behind this, it kind of makes me think a little bit of sharding, but the idea behind this is that instead of announcing every transaction to every peer, as it normally does on the Bitcoin network, announcements are only sent directly to other small number of connections, only 8 outgoing ones. Further relay is achieved by periodically running a set of reconciliation protocol over every connection between the sets of withheld announcements in both directions. Now, what does that mean? So, reducing the transaction bandwidth, potentially making Bitcoin network faster, less likely to get clogged up. Also in the news, an XRP killer. I thought XRP had an agreement with UBS. Well, it turns out UBS has been working on their own XRP killer. Now, if this turns into anything, we don't exactly know. But since about 2012, UBS, who apparently had a partnership with Ripple or XRP, has been working on creating these USCs, fiat-pegged cryptocurrencies that have a 1-to-1 ratio with the underlying fiat currencies. The startup raised about $63 million in funding to help create these things, and it's done by this group, Finality. Now, they say this is going to drastically reduce the cost of international payments by eliminating third-party intermediaries, even though it seems Finality sits in the middle of the transaction flow process, thus making them a third party. But, we won't look at that stuff. UBS even says you remove settlement risks, the counterparty risk, the market risk. All those risks add up to costs and inefficiencies in the marketplace. Now, is this going to be something that kills XRP? I don't know. I don't think so. XRP's been around for a long time. They've got a lot of connections. And lastly, just because I like to end with some good news, Bitcoin vanishes to 100,000 and no one is noticing the pattern. So apparently, here's a big thing on TradingView. Basically, there's been decreasing time between peaks. Now we're looking at $100,000 potentially by the end of 2020, which could be very cool. As you can see here, we have a halving coming up, and potentially by the end of 2020, we might see a $100,000 landmark, which would be just in line with what the Bitcoin time traveler said, because it goes up every 2 years. It goes up an order of magnitude. So 2017 was 10,000. 2020 will be 100,000. That would be great, wouldn't it? Guys, if you are interested in getting into trading, check out Signal Profits. There is a link down in the description. You get 2 weeks trial for $7 where you could regularly get returns like 8% in a few hours, 11% in a few hours, different stuff like that. So you don't have to learn how to trade. You just copy, click, and profit. Also check out the Monarch wallet where you can actually earn 5% interest for holding your crypto in there. Crazy. You actually earn interest, like way more interest than you would ever get from a bank. And lastly, if you are in England, there is a digital asset summit coming up from CryptoCompare. It's coming up in a week, so you guys can check that out and check it out. Dude, Andreas Antonopoulos. If I was in England, I would go see that shit because he is a smart dude and I would love to see him talk, to meet him, different things like that. So it's pretty badass. Also, Tom Lee will be there. You could ask him what's his latest prediction for Bitcoin, which is most likely wrong, but you could ask him that. And some other people like Peter McCormick he's a podcaster, other people. Lots of ladies there. Always nice to see lots of ladies. So if you do want to go to that, make sure you use the code EAK20. I don't actually get anything from that, but that gets you 20% off. So if you are in the England area, it only costs you £240, which compared with many other conferences really isn't that high. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you later. Peace.